You wanted them. Not casually, really wanted them. So you did everything right. You were kind, you were available, you texted back in 4 seconds flat, because God forbid you seem cold. You listened for hours. You remembered their coffee order, their sister's birthday, the name of their childhood dog. You made yourself useful, easy, safe. You gave and gave and gave. And you watched them drift, slowly, politely, but unmistakably. The harder you reached, the further they slipped, like sand squeezed in a fist, pouring out the bottom exactly as fast as you tightened your grip. And then you saw the thing that made no sense at all. Somebody else wandered in and treated them with roughly half your effort, forgot the text back for a day, kept them guessing, was frankly a bit of a disaster. And that person, they became the obsession. So you're left holding a question that has quietly humiliated you your whole life. Why does wanting someone, really wanting them and showing it, seem to be the surest way on earth to lose them? Here is the answer, and it is going to rearrange every attraction you have ever felt. Desire does not obey logic. You cannot earn it. You cannot argue someone into it. And nearly everything you were ever taught about winning someone over quietly does the opposite. Now, one honest warning about what this video is. The psychology you're about to learn is the same psychology a con artist uses to empty your wallet and a showman uses to make a room gasp. It is real. It is powerful. It can absolutely be used to manipulate. We are not going to do that, because a person won by manipulation always, always wakes up. We're going to use it for the only thing it's actually good for, to become someone genuinely worth wanting. Because here's what you've been doing this whole time, without a name for it. You've been chasing. And tonight I'm going to show you why the chase always loses, and the strange psychology the most magnetic people who ever lived understood instead. They never chased. They built gravity, and they let what they wanted fall toward them. Let me tell you about someone, and I think somewhere in this, you're going to recognize a face. It's 11 p.m. The room is dark except for the glow of a phone, and they are reading a message, a short one, 3 lines, sent hours ago, for maybe the 40th time, reading it like a detective. Did okay mean okay or okay? Why no emoji this time? They usually send the emoji. You know this person. Maybe, on some nights, this person is you. They weren't always like this. They used to have a whole life, friends, a hobby they loved, a laugh that filled a room. But somewhere in the wanting, all of it quietly shrank. The hobby got dropped. The friends stopped hearing from them. The laugh got careful, because every ounce of who they were got poured, drop by drop, into one person who never asked for it and never quite gave it back. That's what the chase actually costs. Not just the relationship you don't get. You. The you that slowly disappears while you're busy performing a smaller, more agreeable, more available version of yourself for someone who is never going to fall for a performance. Hold on to that person in the dark. We're going to come back for them at the very end, because their story does not end at 11 p.m. It turns on a single ordinary day in a way you won't see coming. But first, to get them out of that room, we have to understand the thing almost no one does, where desire actually comes from. And the first clue was found in 1974, 200 feet above a river, on a bridge that would not stop shaking. British Columbia, a deep gorge and 2 ways across it. One is solid, low, wide, bolted into the rock. You could cross it half asleep, eating a sandwich. The other is a narrow suspension bridge, wooden planks, thin wire cables, swaying 200 feet above the rocks, groaning with every step. As young men cross, one at a time, a woman meets each of them in the middle. She asks a few survey questions and hands him her number in case he wants to know how the study turns out. Here's the experiment. Which men called her? The men from the terrifying bridge called far more often, and the ones who did rated her as more attractive than the men from the safe, solid bridge. Same woman, same number. The main thing that changed was the bridge. Now, be careful here, because this is where lesser videos overreach. The bridge did not prove that all attraction is fear, or that love is just adrenaline. It proved something subtler and stranger, that the body's arousal, a pounding heart, whatever the cause, can be misread by the mind as desire. On that swaying bridge, the men's hearts were slamming from fear, and when they looked at the woman standing there, some part of the brain quietly misfiled the feeling, and must be feeling this because of her. So think about it. The safe bridge is where you take your parents. The terrifying one is where people fall in love. Make of that what you will. This is one of the first things a chase blinds you to. Desire has many engines, but comfort is rarely one of them. Safety is lovely. It's also where the heart stops racing, and a heart that never races rarely calls it love. So ask yourself what you've been offering the person you want. Comfort, reassurance, endless availability. You made yourself the solid, concrete bridge, steady, certain, nothing to fear, and then quietly wondered why their pulse never once jumped when they looked at you. You were never unlovable. You were just unthrilling. And unthrilling is where desire lies down and takes a nap. But a racing heart is only a spark. To turn a spark into an obsession takes a second ingredient, and it's the very first thing the chase destroys. Answer honestly. Who pulls at you harder? The person who clearly adores you, or the one you can't quite read? You already know. You just wish you didn't. In 2011, psychologists ran a neat little study. They showed a group of women the profiles of men who had supposedly just rated them. Some women were told these men liked them a lot. Others were told the men's feelings were uncertain. Maybe they liked them, maybe they didn't. Then, which men can't you stop thinking about? It wasn't the men who clearly liked them. It was the ones whose feelings were uncertain. Not knowing where they stood was the exact thing the women couldn't put down. Now, uncertainty isn't the only thing that pulls people. Attraction runs on a dozen engines at once, but it may be the most overlooked one. Because here's how it works. When you don't know how someone feels, your mind refuses to close the tab. It circles, replays, wonders at 2 a.m. when you should be asleep, and attraction lives inside that wondering. Certainty ends it. The moment someone is completely sure of you, the wondering stops, and a lot of the pull goes with it. Now watch what the chase does with this fragile thing. The chaser is terrified of uncertainty, so they sprint to kill it. You know the ritual. You typed, "Hey," deleted it. Typed, "Hey," deleted that. Sent, "Hey," then immediately sent a second text explaining the first one. Congratulations, you have just spent more emotional energy than the other person will feel all month. That's the chase. It over-texts, to be sure. It confesses everything far too early to feel safe. It makes its feelings impossible to miss. I'm here, I'm yours, please be certain of me. And in doing it, hands over the one thing keeping that person up at night. It puts the mystery out of its misery. And the moment the mystery dies, a lot of the pull dies with it. Now hear this, because it's the line between seduction and manipulation. Mystery is not a trick you play on someone. It is not pretending to feel less than you do. It's refusing to pour your entire self out at someone's feet before they've taken a single step toward you. It's having a life so full that you genuinely are not. The mystery is real because you really are a whole world they haven't finished exploring. So it isn't your looks, and it isn't how much you give. Then what makes a person irresistible? For that, let me take you to a torchlit palace 2,000 years ago, to a woman who seduced the two most powerful men on earth, and who, by the accounts that survive, wasn't even the most beautiful woman in the room. Cleopatra. The name alone summons the most seductive woman in history. So here's the fact that should stop you cold. By the accounts that come down to us, chiefly Plutarch, writing generations after she died, Cleopatra was no great beauty. Her looks, he wrote, were not altogether incomparable. Not the face that stops traffic. Now, we have to be honest. We weren't there, and ancient historians had their own agendas. But the picture the sources paint is remarkably consistent, and it points away from her face entirely. So how did this supposedly ordinary-looking woman make Julius Caesar, the single most powerful man alive, fall for her? And then, after him, Mark Antony, the next most powerful man in the world. Once could be luck. Twice starts to look like a method. And Plutarch tells us what the method was. Her voice, he wrote, was like an instrument she could tune at will. She spoke many languages and could talk to almost anyone as though she'd waited her whole life to meet them. To be near Cleopatra was to feel wittier, bolder, more alive, as if you'd stepped out of your small, ordinary day and into a richer, more dangerous world. Her presence, he said, was bewitching. And notice what kind of presence it was. Cleopatra didn't win by giving more. She won by making the most powerful men in the world feel like boys again, playful, bold, slightly out of control in her presence. And she isn't alone. Jump 17 centuries to the most famous seducer in the male half of history, Casanova. We remember the name as a punchline for a womanizer, but by his own memoirs, and a man is always the flattering narrator of his own life, so hold it loosely, the secret was almost embarrassingly simple. Casanova was not the richest man in the room, or the handsomest. His gift was attention. When he was with someone, the rest of the world went dark. He listened as though her every word were the most fascinating thing ever spoken. And, the part the imitators never grasp, he seems to have genuinely meant it. He fell a little in love every time. Two people, opposite ends of history, and the same reported secret. It was never mainly about how they looked. It was about how you felt in their presence. This is the thing the chase can never grasp, and it may be the whole game. People are rarely drawn to your face, your resume, or the pile of nice things you do for them. They are drawn to who they get to be when they're with you. Psychologists even have a name for it: self-expansion. We're often pulled toward the people who make our own world feel bigger. And this is exactly why the most magnetic people who ever lived did not chase. They didn't have to. They'd built a self, a life, a presence so full that simply being let inside it was the reward. They never begged you to choose them. They made you quietly afraid of not being chosen. So stop asking, how do I get them to like me? That's the chaser's question, and it will bury you. Start asking the only one that matters. Who do I get to become, so that standing next to me feels like luck? There's no single way to be that person. Robert Greene mapped the classic styles in The Art of Seduction. The siren with pure sensual pull, the rake with dangerous desire, the coquette with a hot and cold rhythm. Some seduce with warmth, some with danger, some with mystery. Only neediness has never worked. And under all of them sits the same quiet craft. Create anticipation. Make them feel truly seen. Offer a glimpse of something real at the perfect moment. None of it is a trick. It's craft. Hold on to the word. Now, your instinct is that the way to become that person is to give someone more. More attention, more gifts, more of you. It's the most natural instinct in the world. And it's a trap. Because the next secret is one of the most counterintuitive things ever discovered about attraction. And it was found by one of history's smartest men, using an enemy who couldn't stand him. Philadelphia, the 1730s. A young Benjamin Franklin has a problem. A rival in the legislature, a wealthy, educated man, despises him and says so in public. Franklin needs him on his side. And here's what makes Franklin Franklin. He doesn't do the obvious thing. He doesn't flatter the man. He doesn't do him favors. He doesn't chase. Instead, and he tells this story himself in his autobiography, Franklin sends a note asking to borrow a rare and valuable book from the man's private library. A small favor from the enemy to Franklin. The man, quietly flattered to be asked, sends the book over. Franklin returns it a week later with a warm thank you. And the next time the two meet, the rival, who'd hated him for years, is friendly. They become lifelong friends. 2 centuries later, psychologists put the idea in a lab and found the same strange effect. We assume we do favors for people because we like them. It can run the other way. We sometimes come to like people because we've done favors for them. The mind quietly rewrites the story to make it make sense. Why did I help them? I must care about them. Do you feel the ground shift under the whole chase? You've been trying to make people love you by giving to them, and every gift, every favor, every hour of effort has been building your attachment to them, while asking nothing back, and so building little in return. You've been pouring concrete into someone else's foundation and wondering why you don't own the house. The magnetic often do the opposite. They let you invest in them. They let you tell the long story, cross the room, do the small favor. Not from laziness and not from coldness, but because they sense a law the chaser never learns. People rarely treasure what they're handed. They treasure what they helped build. Every small thing someone does for you can lay another quiet brick in the wall of their own attachment. So the smart move, the one Franklin, a man who put lightning on a kite and his own face on the money, understood, often isn't to give more. It's to become genuinely worth investing in, and then get out of the way and let them. But even Franklin's secret has a shadow. There's one behavior that undoes all of it, instantly. And you already do it. The cruelest part is, you do it because you love them. Neediness, not kindness, not warmth, not love. Neediness, the quiet, desperate signal of a person who needs to be chosen. And here's the cruel physics of why it so often backfires. Desire tends to need space. The therapist Esther Perel spent her career studying why passion fades between people who genuinely love each other, and she kept arriving at the same paradox. Desire needs distance. It needs 2 separate people, each with their own gravity, each with their own life, reaching across a gap toward one another. Erase the gap. Pour yourself completely into someone, make them your entire world, and there's little left to reach across. It's hard to long for what never leaves. So when the chaser cancels their plans, drops everything, makes another person the whole reason they smile, they believe they're proving their love. What the other person often feels is the gap slamming shut, the tension draining from the room, the air going heavy and still. And desire, which needs room to breathe, can quietly suffocate under all that devotion. And here is the hard truth underneath it. You cannot argue someone into desiring you. Desire is not a courtroom. It does not weigh your evidence. You can lay out every reason you'd make a wonderful partner, every kind act, every gift, every good morning text, and it may not move the needle at all, because desire was never listening to the argument. Worse, every proof of your worth you pile up can quietly broadcast the opposite. It whispers, "I don't believe I'm enough on my own, so let me keep paying you in effort until you agree to want me." And people feel that. "Give more," the chase whispers. "Less, prove more. Then they'll finally choose you." And each time you obey, you can grow a little heavier to hold and a little easier to set down. Now, by this point, you think you understand. Desire needs mystery, space, tension, investment, not overgiving. You're probably already planning how to use all of it. Stop. Because you're about to make the exact mistake this whole video was built to catch. What if I told you the person you're chasing already knows you're chasing them? That they knew before you ever said a word? Because everything I've just handed you, the mystery, the space, the investment, the styles, the craft, you're already itching to perform, to text back slower, to run the coquettes hot and cold, to act mysterious over dinner tomorrow night. And performed from exactly where you're standing right now, none of it will land. Not because the craft is fake, but because craft run from need leaks the need. And the need is the one thing no move on earth can hide. Here's the thing no one tells you. Desperation was never in your words. It's in the half second too long you hold their gaze, the laugh that comes a beat too early at their joke, the reply that fires back before the little typing dots have even stopped. Science never built a machine to measure desperation. It never needed to. Human beings already can. Every one of us, from birth, reading it off each other in 1,000 signals we don't even know we're sending. So you cannot fake this. You can sit there, phone in hand, timing your reply to look casual, and they will feel the difference between someone who's genuinely out living their life and someone performing a life for their benefit. One is gravity. The other is the chase, wearing a costume. And the costume always slips. So here's the correction to the two lies you've been sold from opposite directions. The pickup artists say it's all technique. The self-help gurus say, just love yourself. They are both half right. And half right is exactly why you've been losing. Here is the whole of it. There are techniques: mystery, timing, anticipation, the way you hold a look, every style we just named. They are real, and in the right hands, they are devastating. But they only work in the hands of someone who has first stopped needing the outcome. Technique without that inner stillness is just manipulation, and people feel it and quietly step back. The inner stillness with no technique at all is just hope, magnetic in theory, invisible across a crowded room. You need both, the craft and the outside, the calm underneath. Which is why we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. Not which technique do I use? Not even how do I perform gravity? But why don't I have any? Why do you chase? Not the easy answer, the real one. Why do you overgive, overtext, overprove? Why do you hand your whole heart to people who haven't taken a single step toward you? Because somewhere, long ago, you came to believe something quiet and devastating, that you are not enough as you are, that the plain, unedited you, just standing there, offering nothing but your presence, could never be enough to make someone stay. So you learned to earn it, to pay for love and effort, because you couldn't quite believe you'd be worth it for free. Psychologists have a clinical name for one version of this. You don't need it. You've felt it. The small voice that says, if I don't hold on tighter, they'll go. So here's the truth this entire film has been walking you toward. The chasing, the giving, the proving, the performing, all of it. It was never a strategy for getting love. It was a confession that you never believed you deserved it. And here's the part that actually repels them. The other person can feel that confession pouring off you. Robert Greene would put it coldly. It doesn't matter why you chase. They only ever feel the weight. Chasing repels because weakness cannot be disguised in the theater of desire. And there is something freeing in that coldness. You don't need years of therapy before you can change. You can begin tonight. So look, one last time, at the thing you've spent your life chasing. And now look at who's been doing the chasing. It was never really about them. It was always about you, and whether you would ever decide you were enough. That is the whole secret every magnetic person in this video understood, from Cleopatra to Franklin. They were not more beautiful. They did not know better lines. They simply, genuinely, did not need to be chosen because their happiness already had a home inside their own life. And that is gravity. Gravity doesn't beg. Gravity doesn't chase. Gravity doesn't send the second text. Gravity doesn't perform or prove or shrink itself to fit. It simply exists, whole and quiet and unafraid, and everything else in the room begins on its own to move toward it. You were never meant to become a better chaser. You were meant to stop being a moon, frantically circling someone else's light, and finally become a planet. And now you understand the promise I made you at the very start. This is the same psychology the con artist uses, and the showman, and the manipulator. The difference was never the psychology. The difference is what you're reaching for. The con artist builds a false gravity to take something and vanish. You are going to build a real one, to become someone worth staying for. Same force, opposite heart. So, one thing to do, tonight, and it'll feel like the most unnatural act in the world. Whatever you're chasing right now, the person who has you refreshing your phone, the approval you keep reaching for, stop reaching. Just for 30 days. Don't send the double text. Don't perform the extra favor. Don't audition. And take every ounce of that energy, all of it, and pour it back into your own life. Your body, your work, your friends, the person you become when nobody's watching. Build the world that makes you the one worth entering. And when you do connect with someone, don't perform. Do the braver thing. Let them see the real one. Ask the deeper question. Let them do you the small favor. Be a little imperfect on purpose. Because in a world full of people performing, the one who is simply, unafraidly real is the rarest gravity there is. Now, remember the person in the dark? The one at 11 p.m. reading the message for the 40th time? Their story doesn't end there, because one ordinary day, they get tired. Not dramatically, quietly. They put the phone down, not as a tactic, not to make anyone jealous, but because they finally have somewhere better to look. They pick the hobby back up. They call the friend. They start, slowly, becoming a person again. And here's the strange thing they never expected. They stop waiting for the message, and the message comes. Maybe from that person. Maybe from someone far better suited to the life they're finally building. It almost doesn't matter which, because for the first time, they aren't refreshing the screen to find out if they're enough. They already know. You are never going to be chosen by becoming smaller. No one in the history of the world ever fell for a person disappearing in front of them. The love that has to be chased was never love. It was an audition with no final callback. But the love that comes for the person who stopped chasing, who stood still and whole and unafraid, at home at last in their own life, that love never has to be begged for. It arrives on its own. It falls toward you, like gravity. Read carefully. Because the moment you stop chasing love is the moment you finally become worth chasing.